morning.
Good morning.
My name is Kimberly Bishop, and I'm Associate State Director at ARP Michigan. I'd like to welcome you to our first Learn a Latte for December. This is a live event, and today is December 1st. Before we get started, I'd like to take just a moment to acknowledge that members of our state are dealing with the aftermath of yesterday's school shooting at Oxford High School. 11 were shot. 3 young lives were lost. Our thoughts and prayers are with the family, friends, and the loved ones who are dealing with this unthinkable tragedy. I just could not start without acknowledging that while we want to bring you very informative events, we also want to acknowledge what is going on. So I'd like to thank you for joining us as we talk about assistive technology and what items you might want to consider buying for yourself or as gifts for the older or not so older adults in your life. Just as a note, we are not endorsing any specific products, but we will be discussing different items and devices that you might find helpful. I know that Hanukkah has already begun and Christmas is just a few weeks away. So we have everything you need, and you don't even really need to wait for a holiday for some of these items. So I'm pleased to announce that joining us once again is Glenn Ashlock. Thanks for being here with us, Glenn.
Well, thanks for giving me a chance to come and talk about this again. Always good to see
Glenn,
you.
Glenn Ashlock is a rehabilitation engineer at the Region 2 Area Agency on Aging. He's a certified assistive technology professional and has been providing assistive technology services for 30 years. He works with individuals with a wide variety of disabilities to help them get connected to technology and devices that can help them make their lives better. So, again, I'd like to welcome Glenn and thank him for joining us today. I have a few questions to ask, but we will also be taking questions from the audience if that's okay with you, Glenn.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. So, for all of our viewers, whenever you have a question, please just type them in the comments section and I will be sure to ask Glenn. Before we get started, I just read your bio and it stated that you are a certified assistive technology professional. That's a mouthful. Can you tell us just what is assistive technology?
Well, that's a little hard to do, but assistive technology is any kind of technology from something as simple as a built-up handle on a spoon to a voice-controlled system that turns on the lights and temperature and controls the temperature in your house and calls for help in an emergency. So it can be low tech, it can be high tech, anything in between. And we also talk about no tech, which is just learning to do something differently or getting some training on something that you already have to take advantage of it. That's a huge thing. I see so many people who have smartphones and tablets and smart speakers in their home, but they don't really know what they can do with it. They don't really know all the things that they can use it for. So just getting that training on something can be assistive technology.
I chuckled a little bit because I feel like you must have been in my kitchen last week as I was having a little fun with my smart speaker. And I did see your assistive technology gift guide, which it's on Region Two's website, correct?
Yeah, if you go to the assistive technology page and then sort of off to the side on the menu is a link to that.
Okay, we'll be sure to put that website on the screen so that everyone has access. But, as I was looking through the guide, I'll have to admit that I own a few of these and I'll be buying a few more. But let's start with your favorite and mine, smart speakers. Can you tell
Yeah,
me why it's at the top of your list?
yeah, I feel like I talk about this every time I do these, but it is really my favorite. And I always have to tell people, no, I don't sell them because sometimes they get so excited about them. They think that I do that. Um, the smart speaker, so that's like the Amazon Echo or the Google Home. There's some other ones out there. I usually refer to the Alexa, the Echo, because that's the one that I use the most. Um, It is just a speaker. It sits anywhere in your home. I have them in different rooms throughout the house, and you just talk to it, and it will do things that you need it to do. So you say good morning to it, and it will give you a fun fact for the day. You can set timers so that you have important events that you have to remember during the day. It'll remind you to go to your appointments. It'll remind you to take your medication. You can ask it what the weather is going to be. You can make phone calls. You can turn on your lights and control your thermostat. We were talking about that before the show started. And, it's just, it seems like almost like a, just kind of a fun toy thing in the beginning, but you can do so many things with it that you start to realize that it really is a practical thing to have. Um,
Yeah,
it's
for me, I feel like Alexa, and I also, again, not endorsing any product over another, but Alexa lives at my house. Fortunately, she's not in this room or else she'd be listening right now. But to call it a smart speaker is almost a misnomer. I almost feel like it's a personal assistant with all of the things that it does. Setting timers, when I'm cooking, of course I can use
Mhm.
the oven timer, but when I take something out and need 2 more minutes, for example, or I was able to watch a movie on Netflix while I was doing my Thanksgiving prep last week. So a
Mhm.
smart speaker it really just feels like an understatement compared to all of the things that these devices can do. So it's one of my favorites too. And I think every couple months I find something new
Mhm.
that it can do. So
Yeah.
another thing that you had on the list that I really loved, especially for older adults, um, was the digital picture frame. Can you tell us how that um, compares to a traditional frame with a picture?
Yeah, it's in many ways it's basically the same thing. There's lots of different versions out there. So again, like with almost all of these things that we're going to talk about, it depends on what you want, what you need, what you can afford, and they start very inexpensive and get quite expensive and really elaborate. But basically the idea is it looks like a standard picture frame, except that it has your digital pictures in there. So pictures you take with your phone or your digital camera. And some of them you have to download the pictures to a card, plug the card into the frame, and then they get loaded in there. And then what it does, this is just sequences through the pictures. So it shows, you might have 20 pictures in there, and it'll have one picture up for a minute, and then pops up the next picture for a minute, and then just goes through that all day long so that you see all these different pictures. But some of the other ones, so I mentioned, the instead of having a card, if you have an internet connection, Wi-Fi in the house, then somebody else can load those pictures in there. So if I wanted to put pictures, we take pictures of the grandkids and want to load them onto grandma's digital picture frame, I can do that remotely. And so next time she comes into the room, those pictures are just going to show up, the new pictures that she hasn't seen before. And so it's a great way to keep up with pictures and see what's going on with the family. But it's a great sort of a conversation piece. When you have company over and they see the pictures and you talk about it. Oh yeah, that's my new grandson, or this was our family at an event last summer outside. So different things like that.
I really like that. The fact that you can upload pictures at any time so you can really keep it fresh. And that really kind of leads me to thinking about isolation because that's an issue for older adults. And I'd say
Mhm.
even more so in the winter where it's more difficult for everyone to get out, not just older adults. Do you have suggestions for items that might help with isolation?
Yeah, there are some things. So, certainly a smart speakers because you can use that to talk to people, and if you get the ones that have video, then you can see them. So that's a great way to stay in touch. Smartphones, tablets, computers, all do that. I think we've all gotten. Most of us have gotten at least a little bit better at using video chat, getting on Zoom or Teams and things like that. And so a lot of us have done that for work, but it's a great way to stay in touch with family and friends too. It seems kind of weird, but we've scheduled a number of video chats with friends that we don't see as often. anymore. And it's, it's kind of a weird thing in the beginning because it's, maybe it's a little awkward and seems formal, but then after, a couple minutes, you're just chatting, and it's not exactly as good as being there, but it's pretty close. It's very nice to be able to see them, and the cat comes in and we turn the camera around to see what's going on, and
Yeah.
so you can do a lot of things like that and feel pretty connected. Another one that's sort of a new thing. It came out, I think, last year, sort of started getting bigger, but I've seen them a lot this year, are companion pets, and they're sort of robot cats and dogs. And it looks sort of like a stuffed animal. It's not a real one, but like the cat, if you pet it, it will, you pet it the way that it likes, and it will purr, and it'll move its tail around. And, it does things that it's certainly not as good as a real animal, but if you live in an apartment or you don't have the ability to take care of one, it's amazing how much you can kind of connect with it in a very short time. So they have cats and dogs, and they're a lot of fun. And we have a new kitten this year that gets into everything, and we haven't put our Christmas decorations up yet. We're a little bit worried about that with the new cat. And I've threatened it more than once. We're going to trade it in on a robotic cat, so we'll see how that goes. I think we're a little too attached to him right now to do that.
Well, and I would imagine with the ones that you're suggesting, you don't have to clean a litter box, you don't have to take them out, you don't have to feed them. So I've been resisting. I want a puppy, and I've been saying that since the pandemic started. I haven't convinced my husband yet, so maybe I'll start with one of those.
There you go.
I noticed too that there are some really good kitchen gadgets that you have. Last year, my son for Christmas bought me an electric tea kettle. And I really didn't think about it as assistive technology, but it gets me my tea pretty quickly. I use it all the time. In fact, I used it this morning. Do you have recommendations for things, other than a tea kettle for someone who might want to do a little bit more than just heating water?
Yeah, there are a lot of things that you can do that make the kitchen easier and safer. Before moving on from the tea kettle thing, though, there's one of my favorites is this. It's a Ucello safety kettle. And so it's an electric kettle. I wish I had one here to show, but it sort of sits on this stand. And so you can pour water into it. It heats up. And then instead of having to pick the whole kettle up that's now heavy with water, that's very hot, and then you have to pour it in, and especially if you have any tremors or anything, that can be difficult to do. So with this one, you just put your mug in front of it, and then the whole kettle will tip up on the base and pour the water into your mug, so you don't actually have to lift it at all. So it's a lot safer and easier to use. So that's one of the things that I think is great. Sort of related to that is an induction cooktop. I learned about these. My sister and brother-in-law go camping, and they have a little trailer that they stay in. And oh yeah, there we go. In that the cooktop, you can plug it in anywhere. You put a pan on it, and the pan will get hot, and the food will get hot, but the cooktop itself does not get hot. We had an instance where we had a lady at the start of COVID who moved into a new apartment, and the controls on her stove were at the very far back of the stove, and she couldn't safely reach across the burners and turn that on and off. But because of the rules in place at the time, they couldn't bring her in a new stove. And so she wasn't able to cook for herself. So we got her one of these induction cooktops, and then she was able to plug it in, put it on her table so that she could sit down, cook, because you can use it anywhere. And so it was a really nice thing. So I've been really a big fan of those as well. I think that's a nice thing to make it a little bit safer to cook. You can also set a timer on those so that, people who might be a little forgetful, it will turn off automatically if you don't do anything with it. So that's a nice safety feature as well.
And you just use your regular pots and pans with that?
Yeah. Excuse me. You do need to have pans that that are magnetic. So like an aluminum pan won't work, but most pans will work with that.
Okay, thanks. You mentioned people who are a little forgetful, and I will have to put myself in that category. Um, I can never remember where I put my keys. I think it was easier when I was going out every day, but now that I don't go out regularly,
Mhm.
what do you have? What can you suggest that might help with things like that?
Yeah, there's been a lot of progress in that. So there's a couple of devices. There's one called the Tile. Apple now makes a tracker, and what they are just little different size gizmos are about the size of a quarter, or some that are a little bit bigger and flatter. And you can attach them to your keys. You just put it on your key ring. You can attach it to the back of the flat ones. You can attach to the back of your cell phone case. You can put one in your purse, your backpack, whatever things that you have. And then when you lose it, you can go to your phone and or your computer and ask it to find that device, and then it will start beeping. So you know your keys are somewhere in the living room, but you don't know where. You go in the living room and it'll start beeping, and hopefully you can find them. If you don't know where they're at in the house, you can walk around with your smartphone, and it's kind of like that game we played as a kid where you're warmer or colder when you're trying to find something. So it can't tell you exactly where it's at, but as you start moving toward one side of the house, it'll tell you you're getting colder, and then you move the other way, and it'll tell you you're getting warmer. And so that'll help you to track it down and find it. You can use it with your smart speaker, of course. You can just say, Alexa, find my keys, and it will do that beeping. And so you don't even have to pull out your phone. You can also tell Alexa to find your phone. If you lose your phone, we do that one around my house quite a bit to find that. The other nice thing with these trackers is that if you put it in your computer bag, and it knows you're supposed to have that computer bag with you when you leave the house, and so you're going off to the office or going out wherever, shopping, whatever you're going to do, and you don't have your purse with you, um, it will remind you. It'll send a message to your phone that says, hey, you left your purse or your computer bag at
Wow.
home, and so before you get too far, you can go back and grab it. So it
Wow.
does all kinds of cool things like that.
That's incredible. I have an iPhone and an Apple Watch, and I'm always using my watch to ping my phone so I can find out where it is. And my husband be like, "It's down here." So
Yep.
yeah, just so much and so many things to keep up with. And again, viewers, I'd like to remind you, for those who are watching live on Wednesday, December 1st, if you type your question in the comments, we will be able to have Glenn answer your question live. So we've talked a little bit about smartphones and tablets, and regardless of the manufacturer, they're really just handheld computers. Can you tell us a few apps that we can use on devices we already own that might help?
Well, there are just so many. It's a little overwhelming to even think about. It's really almost a question of, what do you want to be able to do? One of the ones that I like, sort of a category, is check-in reminders. So I think we've talked about this before. My grandmother used to live in a senior citizen apartment, and every day they had a hang tag and they had to put it on the door. And then somebody would walk down the hallway, and if your tag wasn't on the door by a certain time, then they would knock on the door and check in just to make sure you're okay, which is great if you live in the building where they can do that. But a lot of us have family members who are pretty far away, and I get up, and there's a big rush in the house to get ready for work and all the things that we're doing in the morning, and I may not think to check in with my family member. So we can set up an app on both of our phones that works basically the same way, where they get a little reminder in the morning to check in, and if everything's okay, all they have to do is hit the button on the app, and it will basically, nothing happens. If they don't hit the button on the app, then I get a reminder that, hey, Dad hasn't checked in yet this morning, and then I can give him a call, or try to find out what's going on with him. If there's a reason why he didn't check in. So it's nice that we both get a reminder if if the check-in didn't happen. And if the check-in does happen, he goes on with his day, and he doesn't get bugged by me. And then when things slow down at work, then I can check in with him and talk to him when it's a convenient time without worrying about him being okay. So that's one of the nice things that I think is that you can do with your smartphones.
One of the things that I noticed on your gift guide or a category um, was dressing, for example. And I know as we age or have different levels of ability, just depending on what's going on in our lives, those activities of daily living are important. You want to be able to do those independently for as long as you can. And I saw something again that I have and hadn't thought of it as assistive technology. I just thought I was kind of a slug and being lazy, but those elastic shoelaces.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us some things that might help people just continue those activities of daily living as they age and it may become a little bit more challenging?
Yeah, elastic shoelaces are one of those really simple, low tech kinds of things. You just replace your standard shoelaces with elastic ones, and then you you tie them. And now instead of having to untie and tie your shoe every time you put it on, it becomes more like a slip on. And we've there's Velcro shoes now, and those are great and easy to use, but they don't look that nice. So if you want to go to church or someplace fancy, you don't want to be wearing your shoes with the Velcro on them. So that's where having the elastic shoelaces is a nice thing, because you can put them on your dress shoes and they still look nice, but gives you that flexibility. Um, uh, Lots of low tech things for getting dressed. One of the things that's really I learned about from a coworker is, you get those little key rings that you can buy at the checkout at Meijer and places. They're always right there, and they cost a quarter or something. And she would put them on her zippers on all of her clothes and just leave them on there, because she had arthritis and it was real hard to grab the zipper. So this way she could just stick her finger through the key ring and zip it up and zip it down. Really easy to do. Because they were so inexpensive, she could just leave them on all the clothes, so you weren't moving them all the time. So that was a really, I thought, a brilliant low tech solution to help with dressing. Um, there are sort of, well, they're called dressing sticks or dressing aids, and so it's just a stick, and it's got some hooks on the end, and you can reach down and kind of help pull your socks up or adjust your shirt and do things like that. Uh, um, the long-handled shoe horns are great for somebody who can't bend down that far, whether you're using the elastic shoelaces or just a standard one. So all kinds of little things like that. And really, it's with all of this technology, what works for one person isn't going to work for another. My goal with this gift guide is not that, like, oh, these are the best only things that are out there, or the best things out there. And whenever we talk about it, or whenever I talk about it in public anywhere, my goal is always just to get people thinking about it. That, like, hey, I'm having this problem getting dressed, and Glenn didn't mention anything that would help with the specific problem that I'm having, but maybe there's something out there like that. And hopefully it stimulates people to be creative on their own, or to talk to somebody like me and maybe get some advice and get steered toward some things that might help them out.
Okay, we have a question from Patricia, who wants to know if people will receive the slide deck. So Glenn, if you can remind people, and it should also be shown as a banner across the bottom, where they can find your assistive technology gift guide.
Yeah, if you go to our website, which is R2, the letter R, the number 2, AAA.net, and that goes to the Region 2 Area Agency on Aging's website. And then under services, you pick assistive technology, and then a little side menu opens up, and the gift guide is there. And we're working on trying to make it a little bit easier to find, but at least for right now, it's going to be there. And then we'll also put it on our Facebook page. So if you haven't liked us on Facebook, this is a good chance to do that. And then you get access to the gift guide and lots of other good information.
Very good, very good. I was just like you've mentioned so many different things. And again, we've talked about the fact that people have smartphones and tablets. Do you have suggestions of items that you can use with your smartphone? I saw one of the things that you had on the list was something that you attach to the phone so you can hold it easier.
Hmm.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, this is another area where there's just, if you Google, iPhone or smartphone holders or handles, you're going to find dozens, hundreds. I don't know. There's going to be a lot of them, and they're real simple. So there's one in the picture that's got a little strap where you can just slide your hand through. There are others that have a little knob that pops out that you can hold. All kinds of different shapes and configurations of them. So it's one of those things again that if you don't know it's there, you're never going to find it. But once you find it and you start looking, then you'll see lots of different ones. And sometimes you got to try one or two or three before you find the one that works for you. But when you do, it can make a big difference. And then next to that in the picture is just a little stand. So we talked about being able to do the video chat to communicate with people. Well, you don't want to hold your phone and people prop it up on books and do things like that. So there's lots of these little stands out there that will hold your phone. This one has like little bendy legs so that it doesn't, you can kind of aim it in any direction. And the feet are magnetic, so you can stick it to something if you want to do that. I'm also a big fan of stands like that for your tablet. So whether you're using your tablet to video chat or to read or to play a game, if you're holding it all the time, it can be kind of hard to do that. So again, one of these things where you can slide your hand in and hold it, or a stand that will sit next to you on the couch or in front of you on a table. All kinds of options out there for that as well. And so those are things that I think are really nice. Of course, covers for them in cases. So when you're traveling with them and you're carrying them in your purse or your bag, it protects them. Those are good things to have.
So we have a question, excuse me, from Rayla asking for the gift list link. So if it's not in the banner at the bottom, when the session ends, I'll go in and put that in there so that you'll have a link to Region 2 to get to the gift list. And as Glenn mentioned, it's also on their Facebook page. So just as we wind to a close, I'd like to thank Glenn for joining us today to talk about a few holiday or any day gift ideas. I learned a lot. I've got a few things on my wish list, and I'm sure that our viewers did as well. Region 2 is such a great resource and a wonderful partner, and I really appreciate you joining us. And I hope that I can convince you to join us again for another chat as we both look to support older adults and their families. Glenn, do you have a final thought that you'd like to share?
I think just the last thing I always say this about that this is just a way to get you started, the gift guide and just the things we talked about. And maybe it's a little self-serving because this is the kind of work I do, but there are other people that do this work as well. But, one of the things might be instead of buying one of these things on the list or something else for somebody, if you don't know what they need, maybe think about getting them an hour of training or a consultation with somebody, and they can help them find things that are not only on this list, but all those other things that are out there. It really is a great way to get people started, is to just, have a little bit of time to talk to somebody who does it. And you also don't need to to talk to me. You don't need to get a gift card or schedule anything. My phone number and email has been up there. And if people have any questions about any of these things that I've talked about or other things, they can give me a call. And I'm glad to talk to people about all of these things anytime. And then if it gets more involved, then, there's lots of ways that we can offer services. We don't have to worry about money. So just really encourage people to get in touch with somebody who can help them with these things if they feel that they could benefit.
Thank you so much, Glenn. I think the gift of time is probably the best gift that we can give anyone. So I'd also like to thank our viewers for sharing part of your morning with us. I invite you to visit our webpage at aarp.org/MI for upcoming events. This is my last Learn a Latte for the year, but we'll be back in 2022. And I hope that you'll continue to join us on the first and third Wednesdays as we share information where we can all learn a latte. Enjoy your day, be well, and stay safe. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, everybody.